our attorney, the rebellion in Mindanao, 1972. It's now 2010. You have a peace agreement with the MLF. The MILF is still hanging in the balance, and you're dealing with the Abu Sayyaf in your own home province. How should that be dealt with by the president and the armed forces?
There is no more Abu Sayyaf.
Wala na ba?
What you have are lawless element groups. When someone commits a crime, tinatawag ka agad na Abu Sayyaf. So the way to handle Abu Sayyaf is, again, rule of law. You use the PNP and you use the military. Don't go back to arming private armed groups. That should end. During the past administration under DILG Secretary Ronaldo Puno, he went down that path, despite being, there were objections from the elements of the armed forces of the Philippines. So that's the history of Sulu. Once you arm people, then it goes down the path of crimes, criminality. And it was not covered it was covered for a while by the media. Nung at the height of yung ang dami ng armed groups sa Sulu, may mga rapes na nangyayari na it was covered by Inquirer twice or thrice, and then it just died down. Kasi the people involved were scions of political families, of powerful political families in the area. So rule of law, and then as far as the MNLF is concerned, I think this is one area that the Philippine government must, President Noynoy must focus on. Disgruntled na yung MNLF because they feel that the government has not been sincere with them. And if it goes down to the path na that they will turn their back on the peace agreement, then panibagong gulo yan. Ngayon medyo tahimik yung Zamboanga Peninsula, Basilan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi area kasi MNLF stronghold yan.
Okay.
But once the MNLF turns its back on the peace agreement,
that's going to be a major problem.
Yes.
Well, anyway, Mr. Saycon, you've seen how the late President Corazon Aquino dealt with such problems.
Yes.
And one of the major, I think it was a week after she assumed office, Ms. Wari and former Senator Aquino met together, I think, with Senator Aquilino Pimentel. You think peace is something really very elusive in Mindanao? But with this president, with what the mother has started way back in 1986, is it a reality that one must look forward to?
For peace to really be achieved, as I said, understanding must first be possessed by all those that will be involved. Number one, in our own studies, violence in Mindanao started in 1969 when the MNLF was born in the training ground in Pangkor in Malaysia. This was born out of the Jabita massacre. And because of this, the Malaysians rode on the hatred of the aggrieved families that were killed in that massacre. So what did they do? They exported that violence
To the Philippines.
to the Philippines. For what purpose? For us to finally end our claim over Sabah. Because the Manila Accord was signed in 1967 between Marcos and Tunku Abdul Rahman, where Tunku Abdul Rahman recognized the validity of the claim of the Sultanate of Sulu over North Borneo. So that was the diplomatic channel that was given to Marcos when he was authorized by the family to negotiate on their behalf. But I believe Marcos also wanted to work as quickly, based on the diplomatic, and on below ground, he conducted a special training force in Simunul, which later turned out to be the Corregidor Massacre. Now, based on that, the British and the Americans also saw the emanating problem of this. So when they were returned back to the Philippines, this became what we call now the conventional challenge to the armed forces. By now, a fully trained
Army
MNLF.
in 1972.
So, now, if we will not take all of this in consideration, non-understanding, then we will not be able to find that peace. What happens now is you will arm, as they said, local political warlords in the area. He becomes a special entity. So he lords it over all the others. So how can a peaceful election be conducted? When there is one that is favored by the government, armed by the government, against peaceful loving politicians in the area.
But do you think this is something that won't work now under the presidency?
No, the president, I believe, possessing this, no, because he discussed this with us sometime in the past. No, I think he believes, no, that first, no, everyone must possess the understanding. Then the acknowledgement that yung nangyari doon sa Jabida massacre has to be acknowledged. As the church acknowledges its fault, no, in the Crusades, there must be acknowledgement. And this is where Nur Miswari plays a role, because he was the first voted chairman of the MNLF in 1969.
Okay.
So, and he knows that it is his responsibility, because I had a talk with him, the chairman, 4 months ago before the election. And I told him, please, Kako, let us find that elusive peace together with the MILF. Because Tausug base yung MNLF eh. Maguindanaoan base yung MILF.
May conflict ba doon?
Hindi conflict yon, but since yung Bangsamoro judicial entity was declared unconstitutional, they have no way except to go back to the MNLF agreement, where they will try now to reincorporate all those preconditions that they did not get in the BJE.
So fine-tuning na lang
If a fine-tuning yan, and I think as a whole now, it is easier to do it this way.
Okay. Poverty is one aspect which the President, I think, delivered during State of the Nation, conditional cash transfers. Yung perception na hindi ba kaya dole out yun, why not spend more for capability measures which enhances the sector of the poor?
Well, conditional cash transfer by itself is a dole out. And question actually is the context. When you give people direct cash, if there is no more after that, no conditions, no program, no plans, then it would be a disaster. But if it's part of a larger strategy of strengthening the capacity of the poorest of the poor, and of course those that are not that poor but still poor, then it will work, because it has worked in countries where it was practiced. In Thailand, for example, Thaksin has that political strength precisely because of the conditional cash transfer which he started in the rural areas. In Brazil, that's also a country where that part of strategy is a conditional cash transfer. The question here is not the conditional cash transfer itself, it's the whole program.
Kailangan ba ng pagbabago doon? Whatever the Arroyo administration did?
Ako tingin ko kailangan ng i-review. Not necessarily baguhin, pero tingnan kung where it really makes an impact. Kasi marami ring feedback from the field na nagamit yung ganong strategiya actually to make a conditional or unconditional cash transfer to packets.
Nando doon sa intensyon, ano? Ngayon, bumabalik na unti-unti yung tiwala ng tao sa mga institusyon, nagagawa ngayon yan. So that's number one step. And I believe, no, President Noy delivers that kind of attitude now, no, yung belief, yung tiwala doon sa mga institusyon. Hindi katulad nung mababalik ulit yung, I don't see a repetition of the Volante affair, no, where fertilizer really, no, much needed, no, worth 780 million, turned out to be campaign funds instead of agricultural funds, no. We don't see these things ever happening again. Kaya yung tama yun.
Yan yung context. Pag mali ang context, bawa.
Sabi ko nga pagka sabi ko, ang ganda-ganda ng kwento, mali yung kwenta.
Anyway, perception for with every state of the nation address, perception roadmap yun, yes. Promises yun. But at the end of the tunnel, ilan sa mga prinomesa mo ang nangyari. But given the fact that this president has a solid mandate of 42% and an approval rating of 88%. So tingin mo ba, kung anong sasabihin niya sa SONA, magtitiwala ang tao?
Sa tingin ko magtitiwala. Isang pwedeng gawin upang magtiwala ay nitong mga huling araw ng dating Pangulong Arroyo, no? Naglabas ng mga ads yung mga grupong tagapanalig ni Pangulong Arroyo na sinasabi nga na ito yung mga achievements natin. Ngayon dapat ipakita ni President Noynoy, no, na kahit dito yung mga achievements ni President Arroyo at kailangan i-acknowledge yun, bakit hindi bumaba sa tao yung biyaya ng kanyang mga proyekto? So, yun yung isa. At doon, kung makatotohanan ng kanyang portrayal batay sa report ng kanyang bagong gabinete, doon from those problems, kailangan ng sabihin niya kung ano, kasi sa kampanya medyo hindi masyadong specific. Ngayon, gagawin ng specific. Paano lulunasan yung ganitong problema, paano makakarating sa bayan yung ginhawa ng Panguluhan.
Briefly, are you hopeful?
Very hopeful.
Attorney?
Yeah, very hopeful. And as far as the peace process is concerned, I think there is a commitment from the President that he will pursue the peace process. I mean, it's a process started by his mother, and sana it's the hope of the Muslim Filipinos that it will end with him.
You've seen the best of times and the worst of times in this country from 1986 to the present, and maybe even before that. Hope is there. Is that something that should be sustained? And the fact that you mentioned that people are beginning to believe again in government, is this a time for us at least to
My
come
personal
together?
gut feel, no? Hindi ako napakalaki ng aking pakiramdam na ito simula, no? Sapagkat nung eleksyon, hindi siya nangako ng ganun kadami. Ang sinabi lang niya, walang kurap, walang mahirap. Yan ang kanyang dinidiktik. Ngayon siguro siya mangangako dito sa State of the Nation na hindi natin alam kung ano ito ipapangako niya. Pero I don't believe that he will promise, no, heaven and earth, no, to Filipinos, because he knows, no, that we are in a deep problem.
Kung ano yung kaya.
Kung ano yung makakaya at hihingin niya na tayong lahat ng mamamayan, tulungan siya.
At magsakripisyo din.
At nakahanda palagi ko rin na I feel, no, that the people are prepared to help. Dahil natuto na sila doon na pinahuubaya lang sa leader yung kung ano yung mangyayari. Pagkatapos they will go their merry way and not even contribute in the cleanliness of their community. Ay ngayon palagi ko, no, yung leadership na quality niya, sinusundan at gagawing makatotohanan yun at para matulungan siya.
Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Pastor Boy Saycon of the People Power Commission, MON CASIPLE of the Institute of Political and Electoral Reform, Professor Chua again from De La Salle. We have Aleem Guiapal and Attorney Edilwasif Badiri of the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos. You know, because we have a new president who symbolizes a people's desire for hope and whose battle cry rallies the people to fight corruption in order to help him alleviate poverty, the mood of optimism is prevalent and intense. Nonetheless, the land of promise that is Mindanao deserves an equal measure of immediacy and attention, not just for peace, but more importantly, for synchronizing development with the rest of the body politic. This has been People, Politics, Power, and I'm Freddie Abando thanking you all for having joined us tonight. Good evening and God bless.